What if Janelle Brown's dream farm was more than a fresh breeze and endless space? What if it was more about something deeper? Love, loss, and ensuring her deceased son, Garrison, is never forgotten. That is the tale no one expected. Because although Sister Wives fans have long understood Janelle's love of self-sufficiency and desire for farm life, few understand just how personal this vision is. Based on private interviews and close family sources, Janelle is not only pursuing a homestead life, she is intent on creating a farm in which her son Garrison's legacy will endure. Embodied in every choice, every rock, every piece of grass, and no time could be more symbolically apt in the wake of devastation, Janelle has transformed her sorrow into resolve. Insiders explain she has been drawing, mapping, and even taking advice from lawyers to make sure her farm vision has a permanent tribute to Garrison, a means of capturing him in land, legacy, and life. Then comes the part where things get complicated. How do you establish a legal framework that connects a loved one's memory with property rights? How do you negotiate family land while Robyn and Kody are still battling tooth and nail over Coyote Pass? And what do you do when Christine, thriving in her newfound independence, chooses to have her say? It is not about property. It is about a mother's strength to find space where her son's essence can really be made present. Recall that this is the same Janelle who compromised before, who stayed back while Kody imposed his so-called patriarchal ideal of Coyote Pass. But now, she is not backing down anymore. This isn't about the money. This isn't about Kody. This isn't about Garrison, one source clarified, and that is why this vision for the farm may be one of the most tear-jerking fights in Sister Wives history. Because when you add family loss, property tensions, and decades worth of complicated relationships, the tale doesn't just tug at hearts. It creates a battle that might redefine all that the Browns use to represent. And before we continue, subscribe, because this narrative remains unfolding, and each installment brings us something more surprising than the last. When Janelle Brown originally discussed her aspiration to live off the grid, most supporters thought it was about independence, freedom, or perhaps merely escaping Kody's constant requests. But the reality goes much deeper. As sources close to the family tell it, Janelle's dream of a farm isn't about beginning anew. It is about building a venue where her late son Garrison is remembered and celebrated each and every day. She speaks of it non-stop, said one family friend. The farm isn't a piece of property to her. It is Garrison in bodily form. She wants his presence to be symbolized in everything, from the planting of the garden to the animals she raises, to the inscription chiseled at the gate. And if you think this is symbolic, think again. Janelle has also said she has been talking to planners and lawyers to determine just how to integrate Garrison's memory into the very fabric of the farm. Here is what she has in mind. A memorial orchard, one tree planted for each milestone in Garrison's life. A veterans garden, an area honoring not just her son but those who served, because Garrison had such strong ties to military service, a legacy trust. Janelle wants to make the farm inviolate, legally safeguarded so that future generations, and certainly her children, will always have a place to come where the memory of Garrison lives. But here is the surprise twist no fans anticipated. This vision is not all personal, it is political. Because the property Janelle envisions might not be strictly distinct from the Coyote Pass horror show. While Robyn and Kody hold on to their assertions, Janelle is secretly planning how to use her rightful portion of the property to turn her dream of a farm into reality. She doesn't want Coyote Pass like Kody did. Another source revealed. She wants her own farm, her own place, but she is aware of the legal attachment, and she is not going to budge this time. For years, Janelle was the peacekeeper. She was the sacrificial wife, the compromising wife, the one who put up with Kody's perpetual fixations on control. But after Garrison died, something changed within her. She no longer feels like compromising. This is not a matter of proving Kody wrong. This is not even a matter of one-upping Robyn. It is about building something that will last, something Kody can't destroy, and something Robyn can't wipe out. And that is why sources close to the family say Janelle's resolve has already started causing waves in the family. Because although Christine is fully supportive, Meri is torn. And Robyn, she views this as another challenge to the tenuous hold she and Kody maintain over what remains of the Brown dynasty. Farm isn't only a fantasy, it is a war zone, and Janelle is gearing up for battle. It didn't take long for Janelle's dream to hit a brick wall. And that wall, naturally, was Kody Brown. When she originally started to talk about building a farm in honor of Garrison, Kody's response wasn't the kind of encouragement you would expect from a bereaved father. In accordance with several reports, he was short with her, basically annoyed. Kody waved her off like it was just another of Janelle's daydreams, one source described. He would just go on and on saying things like, "That is not realistic. That is not how the family plan works." It was as if he couldn't accept that she was creating something real without him. But the thing is, Janelle wasn't seeking his approval. In the past, she might have caved to his criticism. She might have stuffed down her disappointment and done what Kody wanted for Coyote Pass. Not anymore. This time, she stood firm. Sources tell people the exchange soon turned heated. Kody insisted that all family property and resources were still technically connected, so her farm plan would hinder the bigger picture. Janelle pointed out that the so-called family vision already had fallen apart. Christine had walked out, Meri was sitting on the bench, and Robyn, she was the only one still supporting Kody's fantasies. The tension came to a breaking point when Robyn entered the discussion. Robyn jumped right in, playing the role of peacemaker, a source disclosed. But actually she was just defending Kody. She said the land had to be managed responsibly, that there were bills and commitments, and that now was not the right time for Janelle's dream farm. But that is when Janelle said something that had everyone fall silent, according to reports. "This is not a dream. This is for Garrison. And if you can't get that, then you are not part of this." It was a rare act of defiance, the kind of raw, unapologetic sincerity that Janelle had always kept hidden. She was the practical one, the quiet strength behind the family's crazy decisions for years. But in that instant she made it plain. This farm wasn't negotiable, and it wasn't even about Kody. It wasn't even about Robyn. It wasn't even about the family harmony already lost. It was about her son. Robyn, who was present, looked stunned. Kody, however, fell silent, a silence that was more akin to retreat than respect. He did not want to appear as the father holding up progress in honoring his deceased son. But the reality is, he did not care for Janelle making something permanent without his jurisdiction, and that silence spoke volumes for Janelle. She could not afford to wait for Kody's permission. She would have to do it independently. All that could come after that fiery confrontation with Kody and Robyn was Janelle realized she could no longer count on them for support. The dream farm wouldn't materialize if she waited for approval from the family. She required someone to see her vision, someone who appreciated what this farm represented to her and to Garrison's legacy. And oddly enough, that supporter wasn't who most fans would have predicted. It wasn't Christine, even though Christine provided emotional support, cheering Janelle along from the sidelines. It wasn't Meri, though. Meri had her own messy past with Kody and remained wary of getting herself into another land battle. No, the individual who volunteered was someone outside the immediate Sister Wives orbit. A family friend who was both knowledgeable about property law and estate planning. This supporter allegedly sat down with Janelle and walked her through just what she would have to do to defend her dream. Legally separate assets so Kody couldn't touch them. Establish a trust in the name of Garrison, attaching the farm's purpose directly to his memory. Get financing independently, ensuring no family debt at Coyote Pass bled over into her new venture. She was serious. She wasn't talking anymore. One source said. She had paperwork. She had consultations. She had a plan, and the farm was no longer a dream on paper. It was becoming a real, tangible project. This move changed everything. For years, Janelle had been regarded as the practical one, the steady partner who held things together behind the scenes while Kody and Robyn made the decisions. But now she was establishing her own foundation, a legacy that was not about Kody's power and all about respecting her son. And here is where things get even more interesting. Once Janelle started setting the legal wheels in motion, word began to circulate among the family. Christine was over the moon. She allegedly told Janelle she wished she'd done the same years ago, rather than sitting around waiting for Kody to follow through on promises made, then broken. Meri was wiser, but quietly conceded that Janelle's strength impressed her. Kody and Robyn, however, Their response was the reverse. They felt blindsided, another insider alleged. Kody told Janelle she was being selfish, that she was tearing down what little harmony the family had left. Robyn said she was making decisions based on sadness, not sense. But the reality is, they weren't upset because of the sadness. They were upset because they were losing control. The more Kody attempted to downplay Janelle's work, the more resolute she was. She wasn't merely creating a farm. She was forging a niche in history, one where Garrison's memory would never be diminished by Kody's disregard or Robyn's pressure. And that was going to trigger a chain reaction, because once Janelle had legal backing behind her, she went on to step 2, obtaining the land itself. Once Janelle had the legal foundations in place, step 2 was obvious. She required land, not any land, but somewhere that seemed to be right, somewhere that had meaning, where Garrison's presence could be felt in every nook and cranny. This wasn't about buying the largest property or the lowest price. For Janelle, this was about connection. She kept saying, "I'll know it when I see it," one of her sources clarified. She didn't care if it was a large ranch or a little farm. She wanted a piece of property that called to her, made her feel like Garrison would have been honored to have called it home. So she started looking. Janelle drove wide, open parcels on the fringes of Flagstaff. She looked at hidden, away pieces with wooded spots and streams. She even considered land close to Coyote Pass, although sources indicate the emotional baggage on that property gave her pause. Again and again, wherever she went, she pictured the farm. A line of fruit trees planted for Garrison, a barn with his cherished tools and hobbies depicted, a peaceful bench beneath a weeping tree where she could sit and feel close to him. But here is where it got serious. For one visit, Janelle allegedly stood in the center of a small valley ringed by pine trees and open sky and whispered, "This is it." The agent thought she was kidding. But she wasn't. She felt it, an insider revealed. She mentioned that the land brought back memories of vacations she shared with Garrison. The open space, the quiet, it just felt like him. And that moment wasn't just emotional, it was practical. The property wasn't attached to the Brown family's debts. It was cheap enough for Janelle to manage on her own, given the trust structure she was creating. But of course, nothing in the Brown world is without drama. When Kody learned of Janelle's decision, he apparently flipped. He called her reckless, accused her of throwing away family unity for a personal fantasy. Robyn supported him, calling Janelle selfish for divorcing her future from theirs. But Janelle didn't hesitate. For the first time in years, she didn't second-guess herself. She told them, "This isn't about you. That is about my son, undefended. You don't get a vote in that." And with that, she set her sights on closing the deal. When Janelle located the property, the dream became real to her. The paperwork wasn't even completed. But in her mind, the farm was already thriving. She could hear it, see it, and almost touch it. She would sit at her kitchen table with a notebook and sketch out a design, said one source. Barn over there, garden over here, little pond in the corner. Every aspect was significant, and every aspect reflected on Garrison. This was no hobby project. Janelle was laying out a living memorial. Here is what her design consisted of: a memorial orchard, one tree planted for every milestone in Garrison's life, from his first birthday to the end of his days. A veteran's corner. Garrison was strongly attached to serving in the military, and Janelle wished for a flag, a rock, and a miniature garden where others could also pay tribute to him. A farm emblem, not a name at all, but a symbol. Something she could leave to her kids so the farm would be a legacy, something that would go on in the family. And she wasn't hiding these dreams from anyone. Christine, Janelle's best friend ever, was said to have been brought to tears when Janelle revealed the drawings to her. "This is perfect," Christine said to her. "This is exactly how he'd want to be remembered." Even Meri, who often kept her distance from these kinds of battles, admitted that Janelle's vision was powerful. "It's the first time I've seen her this alive in years," a source quoted Meri as saying, but not everyone was touched. Kody predictably viewed the sketches as a threat. "You can't just begin constructing something without talking to the family," he bristled in one terse argument. But Janelle was swift to correct him. There was no family left. The harmony he spoke of had long since been broken. Robyn borrowed Kody's frustration, accusing Janelle of being driven by grief, not reason. She even told Janelle to hold back, saying that the proper time would eventually arrive. But Janelle put a stop to that. "The time is now," she declared adamantly. "I don't need to wait for approval to honor my son." Those words were a tipping point. Janelle wasn't just dreaming of the farm anymore, she was standing up for it. Each hurdle, each protest, from Kody or Robyn, only strengthened her resolve. And she had already scheduled the first event to be held on the land when it was finished. A dedication ceremony for Garrison, a family, only, not television, filmed, not publicity, driven event, one where Garrison's memory could be honored in the way he deserved. Christine said she'd attend. Meri assured her she'd stand by her side. Even some of the children expressed their thrill at being involved in something that really counted. And that is when Kody understood. If Janelle went on, she'd be constructing more than a homestead. She'd be constructing loyalty, bringing people to her and away from him. The harder Janelle pushed ahead, the more agitated Kody got. Initially, he attempted to brush off the farm as merely a grief project, something she would ultimately give up on. But when he saw Janelle was dead serious, that she was indeed poised to buy the land and construct upon it, his entire attitude changed from incredulous to desperate. He began freaking out, one insider revealed. He knew once Janelle secured that land, there was no turning back. It would be hers, not his, and he'd lose whatever tenuous grip he still had on her. And that is when Kody acted. Numerous accounts indicate he started making phone calls to financial planners, property lawyers, even individuals connected to Coyote Pass, attempting to determine if they could somehow stall or stop Janelle's pursuit. His contention: that family assets were still intertwined, and therefore her actions could have legal consequences for everyone. But here's the problem with Kody's strategy. Janelle wasn't using family assets. She was deliberately keeping everything separate. She had already consulted legal experts, and she had the paperwork to prove it. Kody's efforts to meddle only served to point out one thing: fear of losing control. "He dislikes not being in control," said a family member. And the fact that Janelle came out and did this in front of him without asking for his permission went nuts. He could not cope with the fact that she was finally creating something on her own and not needing his approval. Robyn, ever the loyal enabler, supported Kody. Insiders claim she attempted to appeal to Janelle's emotions, claiming the family had to remain united, and that breaking off a separate farm would split the children. But Janelle wasn't having it. "United?" she allegedly retorted. "The family is already split. And you know why." Those are cutting words indeed, because all the people in the room knew precisely what she was getting at. The so-called unity of the family had broken down years ago, overwhelmed by Kody's bias and Robyn's power. And, for the first time ever, it was obvious. Janelle wasn't only confronting Kody, she was revealing him. But Kody was not about to quit. In a last-ditch effort to hinder her progress, he broached the subject of suggesting that any land Janelle acquired would remain family land, even if she paid for it herself. The suggestion was ludicrous, and Janelle recognized this. "No," she said bluntly. "This is mine. This is Garrison's, and you will not touch it." That was when Kody knew that he was losing something other than real estate. He was losing power, respect, and the tenuous hold he had on Janelle. And what he did next surprised even those around him, because rather than backing down, Kody allegedly started scheming a counter-project of his own. One intended to take over Janelle's farm before it could even break ground. When Kody saw that Janelle wasn't backing down, he did what he always does when his control felt threatened. He attempted to outdo her. According to sources, Kody started testing the waters on a family legacy project. On Coyote Pass, something that would bring everyone together and remind them of the original dream. But behind the scenes, it wasn't about coming together at all. It was all about control. Kody wanted to ensure that Janelle's farm didn't get all the attention, said one insider. So he began discussing constructing a community center or a memorial of his own so that all eyes would be on him. But things get really interesting from here. One's supposed to honor Garrison, Kody's own son. Kody's project allegedly revolved around the concept of family history and patriarchal legacy. He needed something that would represent his leadership, his sacrifices, and his so-called vision for the Browns. Robyn naturally supported the idea 100%. She told him it was the only way to keep the family's story safe, a source said. But in reality, she just wanted to ensure Janelle didn't have the upper hand. And this maneuver immediately put everyone on edge. Christine, who had already begun to disconnect from Kody, was appalled. She told friends, according to reports, he has the audacity to build a monument to himself, while Janelle is attempting to honor her son. It is repugnant. Even Meri, who tends to avoid taking sides, was saying something. Meri felt it was insensitive, one source said. She never said much about it publicly, but she confided that Kody's suggestion was selfish, particularly after everything that occurred with Garrison. But Kody pushed ahead. He started discussing fundraising contributions from his families, even presenting the possibility of filming the project for TLC cameras. For him, it wasn't about land, it was about legacy. His legacy. The irony, the more Kody spoke, the more individuals rallied around Janelle. Her farm, orchard, and veteran's garden seemed genuine, soothing, rooted in honest love and loss. Kody's legacy project, however, came across as staged, like a desperate bid to cling to relevance. And fans paid attention. Online chatter began trending. Viewers praised Janelle for her boldness and berated Kody for his efforts to upstage her. Social media tags such as #Justice for Janelle and #Farm for Garrison started trending on fan communities. The more Kody attempted to stay centered, the more he revealed how far he'd sunk below the position of father and leader. But here is the twist. Insiders say Janelle was well aware of what he was doing and chose to play along, rather than battling Kody's project outright. She doubled up on her own idea, expending even more effort into turning her farm not only into a tribute, but a sanctuary. The day of reckoning finally arrived when Janelle ceased prattling about the farm and began constructing it. After all the months of planning, paperwork, and fights with Kody, she was on the land she had selected, shovel at the ready, prepared to break ground on a project that was as much about healing as it was about farming. She invited only a small circle, one insider said. Christine was there, some of the kids were there, and a few close friends. This wasn't about publicity, this was about family, the kind of family that shows up when it matters. The ceremony wasn't grand, it didn't have speeches or fanfare, but it contained something much stronger, sheer emotion. Janelle was quoted as speaking a few words before inserting the shovel into the soil for the very first time. Every seed we plant here, every root that takes hold, will keep Garrison's spirit going. This land will always stand for him. Those words touched Christine with tears. Even the children, who had wrestled with their own loss, confessed that they felt at peace watching their mother convert pain into purpose. It wasn't symbolic either. The first structure on the land was the memorial orchard. Janelle and the children planted the first tree together in honor of Garrison's memory. Each tree thereafter would signify milestones in his life, and plaques and markers would be put up to make sure that his story never faded from memory. But while Janelle was creating something lovely, Kody was fuming. He wasn't invited, a source confirmed, and that stung his pride. He said to people it was disrespectful that he would have been allowed in because he was Garrison's father. But the thing is, he hadn't earned his place there. Robyn, as might be expected, was more voluble. She accused Janelle of alienating the family and cautioned that projects like this one could ruin what little harmony was left. But to those who were actually there, the harmony felt more robust than ever, just without Kody and Robyn. Social media users quickly became aware of the ceremony. Photos of the orchard, posted discreetly by family acquaintances, found their way into fan circles. The reaction was enthusiastic. Thousands of posts rolled in thanking Janelle for her strength, her bravery, and for her determination to commemorate Garrison in such a concrete manner. And that encouragement set a fire ablaze underneath Janelle. She came to understand the farm wasn't merely her healing process. It was becoming a rallying cry for others who had experienced loss, for fans who were impressed by her strength, and for family members who finally saw someone coming out from under Kody's shadow. At first, it was a personal aspiration, but it was growing into something far greater, a community of love, memory, and resilience. But success also brings opposition, and as momentum built for Janelle's farm, Kody and Robyn allegedly started scheming their most brazen move, yet one that could pull the whole project into court. Just when Janelle believed she could finally turn her attention to constructing her dream farm, Kody took a backstabbing move only he could do, with attorneys. Sources said Kody, accompanied by Robyn, started looking into whether he could stall Janelle from developing the land she had acquired. His claim that the property somehow belonged to family wealth, and as such, she had no authority to commit it to her farm venture without his consent. He attempted to claim that due to their previous marriage, and because they shared financial pasts, he still had some right, an insider revealed. It was a stretch, but he thought it would frighten her into standing down. But Janelle wasn't frightened. In fact, she was ready. For years she had been careful about how she handled her money. Separate accounts, clean paper trails, and careful records. Unlike Kody, who tended to blur fiscal lines between his wives, Janelle had always ensured her investments belonged to her alone. When the letter from the lawyers came, Janelle didn't flinch. She called her lawyer, turned over the documents, and waited. Within weeks, Kody's bid failed. The evidence was overwhelmingly against him. The judge threw it out almost instantly, one legal analyst said. There was no merit. It was a meritless attempt to control her, nothing more. And that is where the twist occurred. Not only did Kody lose, but the failed challenge actually revealed his own shady financial dealings. Court documents showed discrepancies in how Kody had handled money between marriages, especially with Robyn. Fans were outraged over whether money from the family pot was spent on Robyn's house, lifestyle, and even her kids' expenses, while other wives such as Janelle were informed there wasn't money for their expenses. The bombshell revelations filled fans with outrage. Social media erupted with posts such as, "So Kody can finance Robyn's mansion, but not fund Janelle's dream farm. This just proves what we've all known. Robyn is the priority. Everyone else gets crumbs. Janelle deserves every bit of this victory. Kody can't control her anymore." The court's dismissal wasn't just a legal win. It was symbolic. For the first time in years, Kody had no authority over Janelle, not financially, not emotionally, not legally. She was free, and the timing couldn't have been more powerful. The same week Kody's challenge imploded, Janelle invited friends over to the farm for a little party to plant additional trees in Garrison's memorial orchard. The message was unmistakable. While Kody was spinning his wheels engaging in fights he could never possibly win, Janelle was creating a legacy. But Kody wasn't finished. Losing in court only made him angrier. He started lashing out in public, offering bitter remarks in interviews and on social media. His anger reached the point where it had the potential to drive away even his remaining few supporters. Once defeated in court, Kody was furious. The man who had dominated his family for years was no longer given a voice about Janelle's life. And rather than taking the loss quietly, he doubled back with one of the most publicized breakdowns Sister Wives fans had ever witnessed. It began subtly, offhand remarks in minor interviews where he framed himself as the victim. He alluded to Janelle as being betraying family unity, and that her dream farm was self-serving. But the more he spoke, the more volatile he became. He went from cool to bitter over a period of weeks, one source said. Initially, he was attempting to spin it as though he did care about the family, but then he was actively trolling Janelle, accusing her of all that was wrong in his life. On social media, Kody made thinly veiled statements about wives who don't respect their patriarch and children being led astray by selfish parenting. Fans immediately knew who he was referring to. And the response, brutal. None of the fans rallied around him. Instead, his words backfired spectacularly. Viewers called him out, reminding him of the years he had ignored Janelle's financial struggles while pouring money into Robyn's lavish lifestyle. Some of the comments were scathing. "Kody, you've got no farm, no unity, and no clue. Sit down. The only thing Janelle is guilty of is surviving you. Funny how he cries about betrayal after betraying every wife except Robyn." Even TLC, according to rumors, wasn't happy. Producers worried Kody's tantrums were pushing viewers away. Instead of appearing the imperfect but endearing patriarch, he now seemed petty, bitter, and control-obsessed. And perhaps worst of all, his own kids started to drift away too. According to insiders, some of Janelle's children no longer took Kody's calls. Garrison's siblings, who were still reeling from their loss, were shocked at how their dad attempted to turn Janelle's farm project into something negative. They saw through him, one source said. They understood the farm was about remembering their brother. Kody turned it into a thing about him, and that destroyed whatever trust existed. In turn, Janelle did not engage. She remained silent in regard to her land, her family, and the memorial orchard. Her taciturnity only made Kody's tantrums worse. Christine, an observer from the sidelines, was said to have informed friends, "Kody's digging his own grave." Janelle doesn't need to say a word. He is showing the world exactly who he is. At this point, the contrast between the two couldn't be starker. Janelle was constructing a future. Kody was ripping himself apart. And viewers started wondering out loud, would Kody's control obsession finally ruin what little family connection he had left while Janelle tended to her ideal farm in secret and Kody descended into public tirades? Christine couldn't sit idly by. She had left Kody prior to Janelle, and she well knew the feeling of being in the crosshairs of his wrath. When Christine witnessed Kody going after Janelle's farm aspiration, and by proxy, Garrison's legacy, she felt it was her duty to intervene. Christine said to her friends, "I won't let him smear Janelle like he attempted to smear me." In private, Christine started calling out Kody's actions, not only behind the scenes, but in discussions that soon found their way to the public. She reminded the public that Janelle's project wasn't selfish. It was about making a permanent memorial to her deceased son, and about finally constructing the self-sufficient life she had always deserved. And public opinion came out in support of Christine's words. For many, viewing Christine and Janelle standing together, even if only symbolically, was the ultimate in sisterhood. It was a reminder the Sister Wives saga had evolved. It was no longer about one man surrounded by 4 women. Now, it was about the women discovering strength in themselves outside his grasp. Christine said Kody can scream and cry all he wants, but Janelle isn't alone anymore, one insider revealed. She knows what it is like to deal with his rage, and she wants Janelle to know she has got her back. This support wasn't emotional alone. Christine had started going to the farm location, bringing design ideas, bringing family recipes she envisioned could someday be included in Janelle's plans for a farmhouse kitchen, even suggesting to Janelle that the area be used to host community activities. To Janelle, that affirmation was priceless. She had always been the planner, the practical one, the wife who kept everything running behind the scenes while Kody got to be the patriarch. With Christine coming in as a friend, it provided her with a push to dream larger. However, Christine's intervention had its downsides. Kody felt their coalition was a betrayal. He allegedly explained to friends that Christine was turning the family against him and stirring the pot. But once again, his wrath only served to make the truth more glaring. The harder he worked to bring Janelle down, the more resilient she became, particularly with Christine by her side. And this partnership sent shockwaves through the family. Even Meri, long a solitary figure, started taking notice. For years, Meri had been the quiet one, the outsider. The first wife stayed in the background while Kody's attention shifted entirely to Robyn. Fans often wondered why she didn't just walk away, but when Meri saw what Janelle was building and how Christine was stepping in to support her, something changed. Insiders say Meri started calling Janelle more often, offering words of encouragement. She even hinted that she wanted to visit the farm herself. For a woman who had always been defined as alone, it was a dramatic change. Meri saw strength in Janelle, an insider revealed. She understood that leaving Kody wasn't about losing identity. It was about finding freedom. And watching Christine and Janelle work together gave her hope that she could rewrite her narrative. The biggest shock. Meri, according to a friend, said that she herself wanted to put something on Janelle's property as well. Not as an owner, but as a gesture, a way of paying respect to her own path and quietly demonstrating allegiance with Janelle's gesture of respect for Garrison. Fans couldn't believe it. The same Meri who had appeared so bound to Kody, so resistant to the future, was suddenly moved by Janelle's vision and shook Kody to his foundation. To him, the farm was no longer just a piece of land. It represented his wives moving on, creating something substantial without him. First Christine, then Janelle, and even Meri, all showing that they didn't require his control to leave a legacy. It frightened him, a source disclosed. Because for years Kody dictated the narrative. Now the women were making up their own chapters, and he wasn't in them. Robyn was seething in the meantime. She allegedly accused Janelle of splitting the family further, and informed friends that the farm fantasy was just a ploy for attention. But the more she and Kody whined, the less everyone else seemed to care. Viewers no longer cared about excuses. They were amazed at the strength of the women, the way they could construct something lovely from heartache. And Janelle, once the practical, reserved wife, was now taking on a role no one foresaw. That of the visionary. The day arrived when Janelle's dream farm became real. Following months of preparation, setbacks, and agonizing struggles with Kody, she rounded up her kids for a simple dedication service. The orchard, which she had planted in Garrison's memory, was taking root. Lines of saplings covered the ground: apple, peach, and cherry, all of which had been selected because Garrison had adored them. A wooden placard fashioned by one of his brothers stood at the entrance: Garrison's orchard, forever in our hearts. It was not a show. There were no cameras, no fanfare, no television speeches prepared. It was raw and intimate. She wanted it to be just family, just love, said a source softly. It wasn't about proving anything to Kody or Robyn. It was about giving her son a permanent place in the world. Christine did show up, standing with Janelle in quiet support. Meri, in a surprising but revealing gesture, sent a little token to sit among the trees. A basic wind chime that now hangs on a branch, ringing across the farm whenever the breeze blows. The kids took turns writing notes to Garrison and attaching them to the orchard trees. Some were laughter filled, some were tears. Together, they turned mourning into something enduring. For Janelle, the experience was overwhelming. She cried as she addressed her children. "This farm is for all of us, but especially for your brother. Every seed we plant here, every harvest we enjoy, will keep his memory alive. He is here on this land now." And for the first time in a very long time, Janelle was at peace. As Kody seethed in the background, losing control of his family and his public image, Janelle had constructed something greater than his dominance ever was: a legacy of love, endurance, and remembrance. The farm was no longer a dream anymore. It was a vow that Garrison's life would still be honored, not just in memory, but in every leaf, every fruit, every still moment of reflection on the land. Artists who learned about the dedication were brought to tears. Social media overflowed with tribute. This is the most beautiful tribute. Janelle is the backbone of this family. Kody can fight all he wants, but Janelle has already won. Garrison's orchard will survive the drama. That is real love. Ultimately, Janelle didn't just create a farm. She created hope. She took pain and turned it into purpose. And she demonstrated that no matter how hard Kody worked to steer the story, the Sister Wives women's story was no longer his. It was about their resilience, their autonomy, and the families they created, in memory, in love, and in liberty. And for Janelle, the farm will always be her greatest triumph, not because it went against Kody, but because it revered Garrison forever.